Tszyu versus Vergil Ortiz is an absolute firefight. At the start of the year, I floated the idea of this showdown in the top 10 fights I wanted to see in 2024, and thanks to His Excellency Turkalashik, it's become a reality. Not only that, the fight itself is scheduled to be on the undercard for the huge Riyadh Season US card in LA on August 3rd, with Terence Crawford topping the bill versus Israil Madrimov. And while Crawford's return is eagerly anticipated, it's this clash between Tszyu and Ortiz that truly deserves the spotlight. The aggressive styles and knockout first mentalities guarantees fireworks in the ring. And the journey for this fight has been intriguing, and it was actually a Tszyu tweet that sparked the flames of this possibility of happening. And once again, overcoming the hurdles of networks and promoters not working together, Turkalashik has once again broken down the barriers and paved way for an epic showdown again. And, well, I guess, money talks. Even Eddie Hearn was shocked by how quick he was able to sort this out.
What about Tszyu against Vergil Ortiz? I think it's one of the best fights that can be made in boxing. He came, I think 48 hours ago and said, I want Tszyu against Virgil Ortiz. No one presented that fight to His Excellency, and that was the fight that he wanted. And we were sitting there, Louis de Cubas was there, and it was like, wow, everyone went, wow, what a fight. And then Louis went to work with, No Limit, and Golden Boy, with Dr. Rakan spoke to Golden Boy, it's not my fight, but I'm thinking, are you really going to get that fight made? And then they come back and say, done. I'm like, oh my God. Unbelievable. Riyadh Season US, a culmination again of all the promoters working together. It's so good and refreshing for the sport. To be honest with you, it doesn't matter whether it's Matchroom, PBC, Top Rank, it's the fight.
But let's dive into each man and why this is such a good fight and compare them head to head. Let's start off with Tszyu. He's probably going to be the naturally bigger man going into this fight, while he also has a wealth of experience fighting at light middleweight now. And for years he was chasing that fight with Jermell Charlo, and for whatever reason it never came to fruition. In actual fact, he got elevated to the WBO champion as Charlo got stripped, as he instead pursued the big money fight versus Canelo. Tim was meant to fight Keith Thurman recently, but stepped in with a late replacement in the giant and lanky Sebastian Fundora. And in that fight, obviously he suffered a horrific cut, which really was detrimental in the fight itself due to the blood running into his eyes throughout the whole fight. Yet Tim kept pushing forward, trying to chop down the raging Fundora, who opted to use his jab for the majority of the fight. Not to take anything away from Fundora, who I actually thought took advantage well of the situation, but Tim suffered his first defeat here, and I think the most logical option would have been to get that rematch again. However, as Tim said, he waits on no one and is diving straight in with the big one with Vergil Ortiz. Now, in terms of Tim's boxing style, in my opinion, he's pretty much a calculated pressure fighter. And when I say this, I mean that he doesn't have the highest output when he's applying it. Instead, he's a lot more patient, aiming to push his competitors slowly towards the ropes and corners, looking to force a reaction out of you so he can counter you.
Tszyu very poised in there, he's in no...
Not only that, he's very capable of fighting it on the inside, bullying you, using framing techniques to set up hooks and uppercuts, once again making opponents hesitant to commit. And this is an area I'm very intrigued to see what happens versus Vergil Ortiz, who has a very high output style. And it'll be interesting to see if Tim can make Vergil a bit more hesitant when committing. But I would also say he's a superior boxer to Vergil in terms of on the back foot, while I think he's more capable of fighting on the inside. And it will be interesting to see if he can make Vergil a bit more hesitant when committing, as Ortiz prefers to have a little bit of space to get off his punches. So maybe this way Tim can exploit him with his counterpunching. On the other side, we have Ortiz, fresh from his dominating run at 147 pounds, and has seamlessly transitioned into 154 with 2 big knockouts in the first round. Not to mention, he has 21 knockouts in 21 fights. Now, Vergil has had health problems in the past, and he was meant to fight Stanionis twice, as Ortiz was dealing with a recurrence of a blood disorder, and when he was due to fight him again, he fainted just before his workout 3 days before the fight, ending up in hospital due to dehydration, no doubt trying to make the 147 pound limit. And I think it absolutely makes sense for him to move up in weight now, and as much as I would have liked to see him fight Boots Ennis or Crawford at welterweight, I think for his health it was the right move to move up, and it turned out to be the right decision, especially with Crawford moving up in weight now. In terms of Vergil's style, he is also a pressure fighter, but is far more aggressive and with a much higher output than Tim. He uses the high guard peekaboo-like style to simply walk you down and overwhelm you with the pressure. But he's not just a one-trick pony, he's very good at changing angles when pushing you back, while he's also an incredible body puncher, as seen in his most recent fight. On the surface, he may look like a typical aggressive pressure fighter, but there's no denying Virgil also has an incredible fight IQ. I've actually done a whole breakdown on Virgil I recommend you guys check out after this video if you want to find out more. But personally, I'm intrigued to see if Ortiz will be more cautious versus Tim, or if he will continue fighting the way he's done so. Personally, I expect the latter, as so far, him imposing his own rhythm and style on the fight is what has given him so much success. But let's take a look at them head to head and their resumes thus far. In terms of fights, it's very similar. Tszyu has 25, while Ortiz has 21. Tim has an impressive 17 knockouts from 25 fights. However, Ortiz has 21 KOs. In terms of height, Tszyu is the slightly smaller fighter at 5'9", with Ortiz at 5'11", and Ortiz has a significant reach advantage over Tszyu. However, because these two like to exchange at mid to close range, this might not be just a decisive factor in the fight. In terms of their resumes, they're actually very similar. In terms of the quality of opponents they have faced, both fighters also went pro in 2016, with both being pretty consistent in terms of how often they fought, while I'd probably just edge it to Tim in terms of the opponents that he's actually faced. In terms of their best wins, for Tszyu, I'd probably say Mendoza, Harrison, Inoue and Jeff Horn are great wins on his record, and for Ortiz, Hooker, Mickinson and Kavaliakis were some very good wins at 147 pounds for him too. In terms of how I see this fight actually progressing, I could literally see a Hagler-Hearn style fight if they both look to assert their dominance right from the start of the fight. But personally, as much as Tszyu is someone that likes to press forward, I think the intense pressure of Ortiz will actually have to push him back. Nevertheless, Tszyu packs power, and as I mentioned, is very capable of fighting on the inside. So we might actually have to see a different side to Virgil Ortiz in this fight. Plus, he's a guy moving up in weight. But going off his last two performances, I don't think it's going to be a problem for him filling out in this division. I don't want to get myself too hyped up for this fight, obviously it could be a complete anticlimax, but stylistically just going off how these guys have fought in the past, there's no doubt this fight has the potential to be a fight of the year. Not to mention, both are more or less in their athletic prime. And as much as people will want to see Terence Crawford on August 6th, for me, this is the true main event, and I fucking can't wait. I will make sure to do a tactical overview for this fight closer to the date. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below in the fight. Who do you edge going into this one? Is it Tszyu's calculated pressure, or is it Virgil Ortiz high output pressure style? One thing is for sure, this will either be a 12-round war, or there's going to be a knockout. This has been Jamie from Boxing Life. Thanks so much for watching. Why not check out one of these videos if you want more content like this?